So with that as prelude, the folks here, for purposes of the minute scale, lacking a quorum is trustees Crewley, Lau, Morrison, and Stone. We may see Vice Chair Baker later.
Around 9:15.
And we're not certain about trustee Lenahan dealing with some medical issues. And learned that trustee Lloyd will not be attending. That's where we are today. Okay. Looking just to make sure that we don't take any steps. We won't approve the minutes until next meeting. We have a couple of approval items from Ken's committee, the budget audit and facilities, and we'll hold on them. Same with Amanda's committee. We have the personnel agenda. These are in our materials. We can look at it. We've seen it. And we'll have to wait on taking formal action. We can go to informational items, Ken, while we're here, and follow the agenda and start with the supplier report and the other items under your 3A.
Nothing particularly to be concerned about with the suppliers report. I think I noted in the our budget committee meeting that the supplier report included a payment of almost $21,000 to the foundation for money collected from employees during, I guess, the day of giving and other things. So there's really nothing out of the ordinary. Same thing with the facilities rentals and waivers. The normal rentals for people who are using the gyms and the swimming pool for events. We waive the fees for the state and the county to do civil service tests in our facilities. I believe the revenues was about $35,000. The waivers were no less than $2,000. The budget to actual financial dashboard. Is that okay? I mean, we're trending fine on that. We're 4 months into the fiscal year. Everything is moving well. The tuition revenue is up a little bit because the enrollment is up a little bit, and other things are where they're supposed to be. So we're doing fine with that. And the SUNY capital programs, I haven't really had a chance to look at that, so I don't know if Dr. Sagai has any information on that.
I did, Ken. It's a pretty straightforward summary of what John King, Chancellor King, is asking SUNY to do on the capital side. And it's a robust ask, but he's made robust asks in the last 2 years, and they've been honored by the state, largely. Nothing struck me as unusual there. Continued arrangement with the 50% of capital expenditures paid by the local sponsor, with the other 50 being matched by the state once the procedural hoops are cleared, which is not new for us. We're used to that.
It's not a capital item, but from what I've read, the governor's proposed it's $28 million, I think, for community colleges, up from $8 million last year for extra activities, which I think are directed to the health science activities and programs.
Right, all the trustees received from Gail the summary of the governor's proposals, and Chancellor King and the governor have been pretty friendly to the SUNY system generally, obviously in the case of Chancellor King, but the governor also, her budget office, in funding the last couple of years. And as they point out in the materials that were circulated, they're starting to have an effect. We're seeing greater retention, greater enrollment across the board for 2 years in the SUNY system. We're seeing it here. Able to put to several of the items that were up for approval are funded out of the state funding. There was special funding last year for student retention and special counseling and advising, all the things we've been talking about for several years. So it's quite encouraging. We'll have to see exactly what happens with the actual budget. We've seen the executive budget and the governor's proposals, but my general sense is one of optimism.
Agree. And I think focusing specifically on demand careers, nursing, engineering, technology, teaching, those are programs that at the college we have and we do really well. So the idea of our students getting free tuition and financial assistance that will help us not only from a recruitment perspective, but retaining our students in those programs. In addition to that, part of the proposal from the governor was our ASAP program, and that we have about 150 students in the ASAP program right now. And we're doing really well with those students, meaning really doing case management approach to them. And that's really nice, aligned to, and then we'll talk a little bit more about this during the retreat, but with the student advisement model that we, the college is really putting together, that goes hand in hand to what we could do to scale it up to make sure that all of our students are getting similar support from our counselors and others at the college. So it really goes in line with the colleges, our college strategic plan, and certainly SUNY strategic plan. So I'm very grateful for that.
Chancellor King called me just to touch base in the last month, and the first thing he mentioned was the ASAP program.
Mhm.
He was very excited about it, really feels it's paying dividends, wants to push it hard, which is great. And you remember a couple months ago, we had the students in before the board meeting who were in the program talking about the value to them. So it was very encouraging. One other thing that I noted from Chancellor King's materials was he is promoting the idea to the state that the bonding rules and the legislation surrounding capital expenditures and bonding be loosened to some degree to allow for the bonding and the notation of these expenses as capital as opposed to operating of software-based programs. So he made the point that in the old days, when you'd improve your infrastructure, old days 2 years ago, you would buy a big machine and install it somewhere on your campus, certainly a capital item. Now, as we saw from some of the materials Kathy circulated for approval today, what you do is you buy a licensing arrangement and everything is in the cloud and the vendor gives you what you need by way of software, but there's no real hard thing. And yet you're paying a good deal of money for the license, the arrangement, and all the permissions that go as part of that purchase. So John King is saying, essentially to the legislature, need to make sure that DASNY is authorized to issue bonds for this purpose, that this is viewed as capital at the local level, because even as bond counsel of the county, I had some problems with the idea of software, somewhat more of an operational cost. And so the county addresses that in this period of uncertainty by saying, well, we will not necessarily bond that with our bonds. Instead, we'll handle that as a pay-go item. Ken's familiar with this from his days as budget director at the county. Some things that you could bond for are just paid for because you don't want to incur debt. And they put it in the pay-go category. Now we're not issuing tax-exempt bonds for an arguably operational purpose, which would be bad. You could lose the tax exemption. And so, but they want to clarify that at the state to really make it clear that in today's technology world, capital looks different than it did 4 or 5 years ago.
Even if they did capitalize it, they probably only would have a useful life of 5 years because technology changes so much.
Well, you can see in our materials, this material is hopelessly outdated. We bought it 8 years ago. It's no longer being supported. You have to readjust your thinking in the world of technology. 8 years is a lifetime. Anything further, Ken, from your side of it? I'll ask whether Candace, none of the others are here. So Candace, you had the curriculum, student success and diversity. Any information on that? I don't see any, but.
No, we did not have a meeting this last month, so nothing to report.
Okay. And then Amanda, your talent, that's just a couple informational items there.
Yeah, we have our transaction report and our minutes from our October meeting. And then we did have a couple action items, which I realize that we can't vote on, but I'll ask you to look at whether we need to have a special meeting
Sure.
to approve those leaves of absences. But
Absolutely. But we do have a new hire here, Lisa. Lisa is the Director of Talent and Recruitment. So Lisa, do you want to just say a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So Lisa California, super excited to be here. Most of my experience is in recruitment, HR, talent development, mostly in the corporate environment, but I spent 5 years at SUNY Fredonia, as well as 10 years at workforce development at Jamestown Community College. So I'm super excited to be here, getting up to speed. I think it's about day 8 for me.
Yeah.
So really trying to get into it, and again, excited to be here and work with the team.
Well, Lisa, we're glad to have you here. We've known of your pending arrival for some time, and glad to know you.
Yes.
Maybe for Lisa's benefit and all of ours, we can just go around the room quickly and make sure we introduce ourselves to Lisa and each other. Paul, you want to start?
Paul Daniel, Business Manager.
Great.
Adrian Rank, AVP of Economics.
Gail Fraser, Assistant to the President.
Bob Germoni, Assistant to the President.
Eric Nealon's the Vice President of Enrollment Management.
Candace Morrison, trustee.
Kathy Colesto, Senior Vice President of Operations.
Ken Cooley, trustee.
Patty Guy, president.
And Jeff Stone, I chair the Board of Trustees.
Amanda Lau, trustee.
Well, again, welcome. Looking forward to hearing from you going forward.
Great.
Adiam, you want to just mention Dr. Rannick over there in the corner? I think we had you, I think, on one of the personnel reports, Adrian, as he's coming back and.
He's back.
Thank you.
So you kind of scared me there for a little bit. I was like, Dr. Rannick, who's Dr.
I was thinking the same thing.
No, but certainly Adrian, working with us, has decided to assist us and stay until the fall semester, until we hire for the position to replace his position. So we are working with Adrian and team to develop that job description and post that. And so I'm very grateful and thankful that Adrian stayed. And one of the things that Adrian said to me that, we have a momentum going on within academics, and one of them is really working with the academic deans and really creating the student advisement model. And his thing was, I want to make sure we do this well. And so I thank you for staying with us.
We are grateful for that. I know that you've had thoughts back and forth exactly where you want to fit the best, but
That's okay.
this is nice for the college that you're able to help us through the fall, and of course, stay on after that as well. But in whatever capacity suits you best.
Thank you.
So thank you. Yeah. Let's see. In terms of the chair report, it's been the holidays, so there hasn't been as many of the normal out on the road type stuff. I did have the annual meeting or the monthly meeting with the county executive, his chief of staff, and others in the Rath building with Dr. Sagai. That's been, again, really helpful. We never know quite what we're going to cover. It's a combination of what Dr. Sagai has in mind and what the county executive and his group has in mind, but it's always useful. So we've done that. On December 20th, Dr. Sagai and I attended, this was the day after our last board meeting, attended the Holidays event sponsored by the Thurman Thomas Foundation downtown, which was quite a nice event. Thurman Thomas has been quite involved with the development of the new stadium and many other initiatives around town, both he and his spouse. That was a good party. We saw quite a few people there that were connected one way or the other, either now or in the past, with our college. So it was a good outing. And we had, I think, maybe most significantly, a good meeting yesterday with Mark Gollin, the chair of the foundation. And this was Dr. Sagai and Bill Reuter and I, just continuing conversations with them about exactly what the relationship between the foundation and the college best looks like, what each of our expectations are, and so forth. So I think we made some good progress there, and more about that during the retreat. I think I'll close with that. As far as student trustee, Cam Lloyd was unexpectedly out today, so we will not hear from him. And I don't know if Colleen Quinn, I don't think Colleen's online, so we will have to hear from her at next meeting. Dr. Sagai, your report?
Sure. Can we put that up? Our student orientation. Okay, that's where I want to start. So Happy New Year's, everyone. And I think we're very excited to start our new year and our new academic semester. And as always, and we will have our sort of a continued tradition where we will have, students or other from the college come and share with the board some of the things that we're doing, considering today was a little bit shortened the meeting. We did not have that, but we certainly will. And so as you can see, we did welcome our new students. That was done at the three campuses. We had our students be able to, we did a little bit something different this time around, and I'm gonna lean maybe on Adrian and Eric to like elaborate on that, where we have, in the past, we did have our academic dean participate, but I think this time around was a little bit different in terms of that. Adrian, do you wanna add how the academic
This
dean?
time, the academic deans, along with some students, were leading tours of the campuses at each one of the locations. So it was nice for the students who were coming in to see the academic deans, know who they are as they walk around the campuses, be able to ask questions and things like that. It was generally very well received from what I heard from the students and the staff, as I was at all of these events as well.
Yeah, agree. Eric?
If I can add as well, one of the nice I don't say the word improvements, revisions to the process is the students as well as parents that may attend actually went and toured a lot of different departments as well. So it was an opportunity for them to not only get to meet with various influencers here at the college, our financial aid director, but it was also an opportunity for them to get used to where the different offices were so that they were more accustomed and familiar with the different offices before the semester started. So we're really excited to see that and the impact it has them moving forward.
Absolutely, thank you. So a lot of work there, and this is something that really aligns with that whole concept of student engagement early, and what does that look like? And it starts, certainly starts with recruitment. Real quick, Eric, can you just talk a little bit about where we are with our enrollment, just to tie to that? Just high level, please.
At a very high level, we're still in our add drop period, which has been extended because of the weather this week. So they'll be on Tuesday. So after Tuesday, we'll have a better sense of where our numbers are for the semester. But things are trending very well at this point in time, in particular looking at our current students or continuing students. So the impact of student retention, as we've been talking about now really for years, I think is starting to really yield a lot of benefits for the institution.
Yeah. In addition to that, I think one of the things that to point out as it relates to retention and enrollment is that we have the academic side under Adrian very much involved with registration and retention. And this started before our students left the college in terms of their break. And those are some of the things that we did with the deans. Adrian, you want to just touch on that?
Yeah, this last semester, we really provided a lot of information to the academic departments through the academic deans and to reach out to students to get them registered for the upcoming semester before they left. That was really our focus with this past semester. The numbers that I've seen seem to suggest that that's had a positive impact on this semester's enrollment and also the engagement with the students. A lot of realignment in terms of academic advisement, what's happening is still happening. Getting that information out to the departments through the academic deans and answering questions. You know, I gave a presentation on opening day where I updated the academic staff on a variety of things that were happening at the college, answered questions and things like that. So it's still in its very nascent stages, so to speak, but it's moving in the right direction.
Absolutely. I think the one thing that I want to point out that is really driving is data, is ensuring that, number one, under Kathy's leadership, we are sending weekly report to notify the college community as to where we are every week, so that everyone is clear on the pool of new students that we have, how many of those have been registered, and what we have left. Same thing with the continued students, as well as our projected graduates. That's a data that we're working through. Roughly, we have 375 students who was slated to graduate in the spring semester, from the fall semester. So then we'll have more students, obviously, from the spring semester in terms of the graduation number that we will be able to share. But I think it's important for us to constantly share with the college community where we stand in terms of our normal, because one of the things, as you know, I strongly believe we do a lot of good work, but that good work has to translate into students coming into the college, retaining our students, having the best experience possible to get them to that finish line. So I think that's important. The other thing I want to mention about the data is that specifically to the academic side, we've been doing it by division. So every academic dean know that each of their division has a retention goal. And so that's something that we develop with the deans and their department chair. That includes faculty, as well as the academic counselors that we put in collaboration with them. So it's been a lot of work, but I do believe if we continue on that and really do that work, that we will see a better result with retaining our students, getting them to the college, retaining them, and getting them to the finish line. So very excited about the direction that the college is going as it relates to retention and enrollment. Any questions or anything I could answer as it relates to that? Good.
How many folks at Northland that are associated with the college?
So we have, Kathy, about 130 or so right now, and I'll talk about the new Northland auto tech that we have, but we have roughly about 130 or so.
Is the auto tech functioning there yet?
Yes, so I'll talk to that. So Northland Workforce, we will have a lot more picture for you to look at. So this one, number one, the picture that you see there is our partner meeting that we do every year. This include ourselves, East SUNY Erie, as well as Alfred, and it's everyone. It's faculty, it's the counselor, and as well as the Northland staff and leadership. So we've been doing this for about 7 years, and I think it says a lot about our commitment, SUNY Erie, as well as Stephen Tucker and his leadership, and obviously the Alfred president, as well as Steve Morrow. We are committed to making sure that the students are successful, and so we have a great time there where our faculty and our staff participate on this. In addition to that, SUNY Erie also facilitates a new student orientation specifically at Northland, so that we onboard our students at Northland at the site. And so we do a great job with that, as well as we do some training with our faculty that are specifically teaching at Northland. And so a new program that we have right now at Northland that started this semester is our auto tax certificate program. It's a 1-year certificate program. It is beautiful in terms of the lab and we have vehicles that were donated. So really impressive in terms of that. I know one of the things Jeff and I are thinking about is that perhaps hosting our board meeting at Northland, so it gives the trustee an opportunity to take tour at Northland to see the
It really is stunning, the pictures. I've
Isn't
not laid eyes on the auto tech part
Yeah.
yet, but I saw elaborate pictures and they're fantastic. And I've been to Northland many times, and it's just an amazing place for anybody who haven't been there yet. And this goes for anyone around the room. Make a real effort to just go over there and lay eyes on the place. It's quite an amazing investment of public dollars in East Buffalo to revitalize and stimulate manufacturing job opportunities.
Absolutely, and it speaks to the governor's sort of focus on really demand and manufacturing, but to make sure that we have access. And I think that is the story of Northland, is that we are providing access and meeting students in the community where they are. And so our auto tech, we have our capacity is 30, and so we have filled that capacity. We have a waiting list for students to wanting to be in the auto tech. And so I want to thank Vinny, who is the chair for the auto tech at the college, and his team for really working on this 10 o'clock at night. He's sending me pictures of the wonderful job, and certainly I'll share some of that picture later on with the trustees. So we are doing really well, and equally our mechatronic program under Peter Gullo, he's also doing an extremely wonderful job in there. In the fall, we are going to have our HVAC under Andy Sacco. So we're working on that to have our HVAC at the Northland in the fall semester. So very excited.
On the
about
subject of auto tech,
Sure.
Dr. Sky, could you talk about how what's going on at Northland on auto tech differs, if at all, from what's going on here in the South Towns at our regular center?
So
And how those two, will we now have two equal and very similar programs, or will they be in any way complementary?
sure. Adrian, you want to talk to that?
Well, right now, we're only offering a certificate program at Northlands. We're not offering a full degree or anything like that at Northlands.
Right, but those are stackable. So when our students graduate, and we did that purposely when our students finished their certificate. Now, this is a sort of a co-op model, so our students are going to be working as well. And so once they finish the certificate, then it's a stackable that fits into the 2-year. This is similar to what we have with Northtown, and this is similar to what we have with Westhurst. So it's really, so we have, in essence, right, 3 different extension sites for our audit, 4, if we think about our main campus, and then the 3 with Northtown, Westhurst, and then Northland. And so it's really exciting to have that. I know a lot of the community leaders, at least 2 years ago when I was officer in charge, that was the biggest thing for them, was that to have an auto tech kind of program in the city, and it's one of its kind. So very excited to have that and make it a reality. And so I think we're going to have a lot of students and supporting our students. I think one thing to note is that these are students that would not have been able to make it at our South Campus location. So we do have demographic information to see where our students, specifically from Northland, are coming from. So this is a population, if we did not have the Northland site, we wouldn't be able to say to serve. So it's really just expanding the college's presence. So we are making sure that we are reaching out to the community.
So it's what's going on in Northtown is most functionally equivalent to our outreach sites or our extension sites with West Her and Northtown,
So yes.
and not as equivalent to what our base operation here in the South.
No, it's really to develop that, and part of that is really the demand. It's that talking to the industry, talking, and as we mentioned before, our auto tech division has a robust advisory board, and the advisory board constantly says, the certificate is what we need, but certainly an opportunity for those students to.
On that point, the question that occurs to me is, what is the likelihood of a student at one of the extension sites picking up the certification, actually going on and picking up the full degree, the 2-year degree? We offer that opportunity. You mentioned stackable, but I mean, I'm sure there's pressure, hey, come right to work. What's the incentive or what's the pitch to them to say, you might want to consider taking that stackability option?
I think it's a multiple dimension to that, and that speaks to our proposal to stay there, to have a mechatronic 2-year. There is a demand, and so one is our students. We know that once our students come into our program and understand the importance of getting their degree or their certificate, in this case, understanding and wanting to continue that lifelong learning. So us really having a conversation with our students about the importance to continue to invest in them. The other piece is that really talking to the industry to know that they need to continue to upskill the workforce. And so for us to make the 2-year degree relevant to that, right? So it's not isolated, or it's not different than the certificate. So in the past, not only us, but other higher ed, we tended to have programs that were not stackable. So students were using a lot of their financial aid, or it was not relevant. So I think for us as a college is to constantly talk to the industry to make sure that the next step is relevant as well, and so that they could support the students to continue the education. And that can happen in many ways. One, through tuition reimbursement. That is something that we see from industry wanting to continue to do that. I know West Her does that with the students who want to continue the education. And then I think for us, as our students are being oriented and being advised, that we continue to educate them about the importance of them continuing the education. Lastly, creating a flexible schedule. Students are able to work and come to school, right? Either on a part-time basis or on a full-time basis. But that is something that I'll mention a little bit about, creating a schedule from the academic side and service side to make sure that there's flexibility so that one could continue to work full-time and perhaps do, part-time or full-time, continuing the education. So that's part of our mechatronic proposal. So we're hopeful that we will get approval to have the mechatronic approved, so that all of those students who did the mechatronic certificate could be. So Peter Gull has a waiting list of students who want to be in a 2-year degree. So
Congratulations. That's really great news, and it's something you've been working on there
Absolutely.
for quite some time.
Absolutely.
Glad to see it come to fruition.
Absolutely. The other pieces you see, assessment and accountability conference. This was sponsored by the Buffalo Urban League in New York City. I had the pleasure of participating there. I believe we were one of the community college there. The rest was K-12. And this speaks to, the region exam and the discussion that K-12 is having, whether to have region or what other assessment we need to use for graduation criteria. And it was very insightful, very much telling that the K-12 is having similar conversation as we are in post-secondary as it relates to what and how do we measure competency and what does that look like, and making it relevant. So I get to learn a lot and connect and network. So what I could say is that our college, as it relates to our advanced studies, is really part of that overall discussion as to what needs to happen in K to 12 in order for those students to be successful when they come to us. So very excited to have participated there. The last piece that you see, our opening in service, this is something that we do every semester. And so the key here is our theme, unlocking potential, a pathway to student success. And then equally unlocking our potential of our college, right? So we know that we have a tremendous opportunity at our college to really do some wonderful work. And but what does that look like? So you're gonna see that theme across, this semester to lead us to our graduation initiative that we're doing, that we will be doing this semester. And so we had two outside guest speakers to really help our faculty and staff. And I gotta say thank you to all of the faculty and staff who participated. This is a very important moment for us to really take out the time to really develop and collaborate and work. And so we had Dr. Barnett, who you will he will do some presentation during the retreat. His focus was on student success, and he talked a lot about Dr. Barnett came to SUNY Erie to work with us on really doing a focus group, a qualitative assessment on the student affairs side of the college. So he met with roughly 240 students, very different, at all of our locations, including Northland. He also spoke to some of our faculty and staff. So you'll see in depth his finding and some of the things that we've been talking about, transportation being one of them. And his work really aligned with the survey that the college did on the Kathy. So we did the student survey, I believe about 30% or so participation from the student side. 25, I want 30, I wanted 50%, but we're working on that. So we're working, but a very interesting data on that as well, and more to come. So he was able to talk to the college community on that, and we had a very robust discussion. The other individual, Dr. Scott Campbell, who is a Council of Adult and Experience Learning organization. His organization is part of the overall SUNY initiative to really work with adult learner. And so there's a huge focus from the chancellor on how we could really attract adult learner. As we know, the traditional student population, that is not it's not developing as much as we want it to, but so we have to figure out how do we balance that in terms of enrollment and recruitment. So certainly there's a focus at the chancellor's level, and certainly our governor, the tuition free was specifically geared to adult learner, 25 and over. And so there is a focus at the governor's level and certainly at the chancellor's level. And so we thought, and this was timely, we didn't know the governor was going to talk about that, but this worked out really nice for us because we have been thinking and talking about how do we really attract adult learner? What does that look like? And one of the key is that the prior learning idea about, how do we have that? Now we do have, Adrian, and we do have some divisions or departments that are doing prior learning assessment already. Can you think of some, Adrian?
Building management, maintenance does a lot of it.
Right, so if we know that particularly in this area, recently, the entire, where the company closed, right, we have individuals.
That was
Sumitomo, right?
Sumitomo Rubber Company.
So those individuals have experience and expertise, so how do we attract us? So prior learning will be one of the ways that we could do that. So Dr. Campbell did a great job in giving us some statistics nationally, what that looked like, that adult learners who particularly get prior learning assessment credit are retained better, graduate more, particularly our veterans. That's another area that we have an opportunity as a college to really, assess prior learning. So we are going to take that and really develop with our academic department to ensure that really, from my standpoint of view, every division of the college should have a prior learning assessment part of their offering. Because in order for us to really attract adult learner, we really need to do that. I'm not sure if Eric or Adrian, you want to add to that in terms of adult learners.
No, one of the things that we did, which was nice about that presentation, is align it to the strategic enrollment management plan. So to highlight to the institution as well that this is a strategic opportunity here within Erie County to attract that population. So not only was there the data to help support the evidence as to the benefits of this, but it's also part of our mission and vision as well that we established over the last few years.
Adrian, anything there? No?
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
As for old business, can you give us an update on the transportation and the survey results?
Sure.
And
So
participation rate?
I think what you'll hear today is that in terms of the survey, particularly to the transportations, you want to mention a little bit on that, Kathy?
Sure, yeah, so we had a 25% participation rate in our survey, and we asked a plethora of questions, one of them being about transportation, a whole subset of questions about transportation. About 25% of students said they do not use our parking. 75% of the respondents said they do use our parking. And then 76% of respondents said they don't use the shuttle or the NFTA. So about 24% are using it, and most of them had, varying encounters with it, meaning how many stops they take or how many times they ride the shuttle a week. We need to dig a little bit deeper into some of those data sets, but at this point in time, it seemed like most of them, it was like I would say a 40 to 60 split on convenience of the shuttle with their schedule. So we're still analyzing some of those metrics.
Do we get information from NFTA or the other company about people
Ridership?
getting on the bus?
Yeah, so the ridership for NFTA I can't speak to, but I'll do some research and get back to you on what we know about that. The shuttles kind of do a clicker of people getting on, but we don't know where they get off. So there's a data gap in terms of what we can learn about our ridership without actually maybe interviewing the students personally.
And I think what you're gonna hear today, so that was the survey, and Dr. Annette did a focus group and talked about some of this, in terms of how, so there is a perception about the shuttle specifically because of the communication we send out when they're late, right? So, and it's constantly late, I have to admit to that, and this is something that we have to work on. So it's a very interesting perception from them and he'll dive into that a little bit more later, but it's that the idea that it's not reliable anyway. So even though, they would like to use it, but because we communicate so much that it's not reliable, they don't even bother to really use it. So it's a very interesting thing of how we communicate and what we communicate. So for them, they're like, so they have a negative perspective on it because they see the level of communication that we sent out. So he does dive in a little bit deeper in that to help some of the survey finding that we have. So I think more to that in terms of what we could do and how we could really communicate when there are some issues
Does the
with it.
shuttle go to all three campuses?
Yes. I think part of the challenge that I think we need to really grapple is how we do our scheduling, meaning course offering. I think there's an opportunity for us to do a lot better with that. And so we are getting a software to help us with that. So I think there is a time gap as well in terms of when the schedule is out, the course offering, and then when the actual shuttle schedule is out. So we're not doing it, and I admit to this semester that we had our course offering ready and registered, students were registering, but we didn't have the spring schedule for the shuttle. And so that's useless, right? If I'm gonna do a schedule for spring, I need to know how and what the transportation, so.
As part of the registration process, is there or could there be a question about would you be interested in using a shuttle?
Absolutely. And that is some of the things that Kathy and her team, and certainly, others, and we had a robust discussion about this during our in-service. I think two things bubbled to the top. One, this whole conversation about transportation. The other, from our students' perspective, and again, you'll see more data and more information, but space was also a big deal for our students. In other words, if students are taking their courses in this beautiful STEM building, they get to have the aesthetics and the comfort and so forth. But if they're taking their courses in the B building, very different, outdated, and not a place for them to sit. So they were very vocal, both, I believe, on the survey questions as well as in the interview or focus group that there is a disconnect and they want more space. Equally related to that is hour of operation. They want the library to open later. And not necessarily to use the library for traditionally what it was used, but a space where they could have a quiet space and be able to use the library space much differently for us. So we had a robust discussion with the college community during opening and service in terms of how do we really accommodate those things that they're asking us of.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm maybe a little surprised that based on the survey results anyway, that the parking is the more demanded service almost than the shuttle bus.
Yeah.
Most people seem to drive, who at least responded,
Mhm.
worried about the 75 who didn't respond, so what are they really doing? And it's troubling to know that the service that we pay money for is unreliable to the point where people tune out of it. So.
And I think when Nate comes to your discussion this afternoon, he's gonna address some of that. He had some thoughts about it.
Okay.
So he's
All
gonna
right.
talk in greater detail with you about it.
Well, I think as a board, what we've tried to do is keep a spotlight on this issue. I don't know that we haven't reached a point of resolution and solution as yet, but I want to keep that spotlight on there because it's just a barrier,
Yes,
and we don't need more barriers, we need less barriers. So,
absolutely. Thank you.
all right, are there any items of new business? Again, this is just a discussion, not an action item. So Gail, when you prepare the minutes, it's okay to prepare minutes for this, but characterize them as minutes of a public information session that was in place in that form rather than a full board meeting because we lack a quorum. Anything else under new business? All right. All right, what I think I'll do is ask then, well, we'll adjourn. We don't make motions today. We will adjourn this group and Dr. Sagan and I will look at the schedule of our retreat and we'll see if we can maybe move things around to tighten this up a little bit because we're running ahead and we're weather and lack of people. So we'll re-examine that for the next 10 minutes or so while people get more coffee and resettle. So that will be the end of we'll start the retreat. Let's say we'll start the retreat no later than 9. We'll see how we're doing. But Dr. Sakai and I will figure out a new plan on the schedule.